My son-in-law forgot to hang up the phone. I heard everything. Your dad can barely afford groceries. How's he supposed to contribute to a real wedding? This is embarrassing, Sarah. My parents are going to think I married beneath me. I didn't say anything, but at that moment something inside me broke. I'd already paid for their entire wedding, every single detail. The venue, the flowers, the band, the honeymoon. $47,000 cash. They had no idea their poor father had been covering everything through anonymous payments. Tomorrow was their rehearsal dinner, and I had a surprise waiting that would change everything forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The phone rang just as I was folding my work shirts in my small apartment in downtown Portland. Sarah's ringtone, the one she'd programmed herself when she was 12. "Dad, how are you holding up?" Her voice carried that familiar warmth that always made me smile despite the cramped conditions of my one-bedroom place. I settled into my second-hand recliner, the leather cracked but comfortable. "Just got home from the shop, sweetheart. Long day installing kitchen cabinets for Mrs. Henderson." I didn't mention that I'd been up since 4 a.m. because the neighbor's dog wouldn't stop barking, or that I'd skipped lunch to finish the job early. "Are you eating enough? You know you can order groceries online now, right? I showed you the app." There was concern in her voice, the same tone she'd used since her mother died 3 years ago. "I'm eating plenty," I interrupted gently, though dinner was going to be another can of soup and crackers. "How are the wedding preparations going? Getting excited?" "Oh, Dad, it's been so stressful. Derek's parents keep adding people to the guest list, and the venue costs keep going up. I feel like we're in over our heads financially." Derek, my future son-in-law with his MBA and his 6-figure marketing job at Nike. The man who'd shaken my hand exactly once in 2 years and looked at my work clothes like I'd tracked mud through his pristine world. "Maybe I can help a little more," I offered, knowing my contribution so far had been modest. "I've got some overtime coming up." "Dad, you've done enough, really. We know money's tight since Mom died." She paused, and I could picture her biting her lip the way she always did when worried. Actually, Derek had an idea about maybe scaling things back, making it more intimate. More affordable, she meant, because her poor father couldn't handle a real wedding. "Listen, sweetheart, I should probably get some rest. Early morning tomorrow." "Of course, Dad, love you." "Love you too, baby girl." I heard a click, then rustling sounds. She must have dropped the phone in her purse, I thought, reaching to hang up. But then I heard voices, muffled but clear enough through the phone's microphone. "Sarah, we need to talk about your father's contribution." Derek's voice, no longer the polite tone he used when I was around. My hand froze on the receiver, ice spread through my chest. "What do you mean?" Sarah sounded confused. $500, that's what he's contributed to a $50,000 wedding. My parents are already asking questions about your family's situation. "Derek, he's doing his best. He lost Mom, the medical bills wiped out their savings, and he's living in that tiny apartment." "That's exactly my point. He can barely afford groceries. How's he supposed to contribute to a real wedding? This is embarrassing, Sarah. My parents are going to think I married beneath me." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor of my apartment. I sat in the sudden silence, staring at the photo of Sarah and her mother on my end table. Rebecca's eyes seemed to bore into mine with an expression of disappointment. Derek thought I was poor, embarrassing, not worthy of his perfect family. He had no idea that 3 months ago, I'd walked into Portland's most exclusive wedding venue and paid their entire $47,000 bill in cash. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark, Rebecca's face watching me from the silver frame. The apartment felt different now, as if the walls themselves had heard Derek's contempt and were holding their breath. My legs felt unsteady when I finally stood to retrieve the phone from the floor. I walked to my bedroom closet and pushed aside the hanging work shirts until I found the manila folder hidden behind my winter coats. Inside were receipts, lots of them. The Sentinel Hotel ballroom reservation, $15,000, paid in cash 3 months ago, exclusively yours catering, $12,000, paid in full anonymous client, Portland's premier florists, $4,500, flowers for the Church of the Ascension, paid by a family friend. Marcus Thompson wedding photography, $3,800, gift certificate from anonymous donor. The Cascade String Quartet, $2,200, paid through their booking agency, no name attached. Sarah's wedding dress from Lovely Bride Boutique, $2,100, paid by store credit from anonymous benefactor. Derek's tuxedo rental from Men's Warehouse, $400, prepaid, no questions asked. Their honeymoon to Maui, $6,000, flights and resort booked through a travel agent, payment method listed as cash gift certificate. Every single detail of their dream wedding, paid for by the man Derek considered too poor to contribute. I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank statements, the savings account Rebecca and I had built over 30 years of marriage, the life insurance payout I'd received when she died, the inheritance from her parents' estate that Sarah knew nothing about, $847,000, more money than Derek made in 5 years at his fancy marketing job. But I lived in this small apartment, wore second-hand clothes, and drove a 12-year-old pickup truck because I'd learned something important during Rebecca's illness. Money couldn't buy health, couldn't buy time, couldn't buy what really mattered, and apparently it couldn't buy respect from my future son-in-law. Standing there in my bedroom, surrounded by the evidence of my secret generosity, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp as broken glass, but underneath it, something harder was forming. Derek wanted to marry my daughter while looking down on her father. He wanted the perfect wedding without acknowledging who was making it possible. Tomorrow was their rehearsal dinner. Maybe it was time Derek learned exactly who he was dealing with. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my best suit. Not my work clothes, but the charcoal gray suit Rebecca had bought me for Sarah's college graduation. I combed my silver hair back, polished my shoes, and drove to the Sentinel Hotel. Mr. Patterson, the events coordinator, greeted me with a warm smile. "So wonderful to see you again. Everything is on schedule for tomorrow's wedding." Mr. Patterson, the fake name I'd used for all the anonymous payments. "I need to make a small change to tomorrow's arrangement," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'd like to make a brief announcement during the reception. Nothing dramatic, just a father's toast." "Of course. We'll coordinate with the DJ to make sure you have the microphone when you're ready." I spent the morning visiting each vendor, introducing myself as Mr. Patterson and requesting small additions to their services. Nothing that would disrupt Sarah's perfect day, but enough to ensure Derek understood exactly what was happening. The rehearsal dinner that evening was held at Derek's parents' country club. I arrived in my truck, parking between a BMW and a Mercedes, feeling the familiar weight of being the odd one out. Derek's parents, Richard and Patricia Hamilton, greeted me with polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "So nice to finally meet Sarah's father," Patricia said, her gaze taking in my off-the-rack suit and practical shoes. "Derek tells us you work in construction." "Custom cabinetry," I replied. "I build things that last." The rehearsal went smoothly. Sarah looked radiant in her simple dress, practicing walking down the aisle of the beautiful church I'd anonymously paid to reserve. Derek stood at the altar in his rented tuxedo, smiling like a man who'd won the lottery. During dinner, Richard Hamilton stood to make a toast. To Derek and Sarah, and to bringing two wonderful families together. We're so grateful for Sarah's colorful background. It adds such character to our family tree. Polite laughter rippled through the room. I caught Derek's smirk, saw him lean over to whisper something to his groomsmen that made them both chuckle. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. "Thanks for being here, Dad. I know this isn't exactly your crowd." "I wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart." After dinner, Derek approached me by the bar. "Mr. Mitchell, I want you to know how much we appreciate your contribution to the wedding. I know things have been tight since Rebecca died." His condescending smile made my jaw clench. "Oh, the 500. That's nothing compared to what's coming." Derek's eyebrows rose. "Coming. You'll see tomorrow." I finished my drink and walked away, leaving him staring after me with confused concern. The wedding morning dawned clear and beautiful. I arrived at the Sentinel Hotel 2 hours early, wearing my best suit and carrying a leather portfolio Rebecca had given me for our anniversary years ago. Sarah was getting ready in the bridal suite with her bridesmaids, completely unaware that her supposedly poor father was about to turn her wedding day upside down. I found Derek in the groom's suite, adjusting his tie in the mirror while his groomsmen lounged around drinking champagne. When he saw me in the doorway, his expression shifted from surprise to barely concealed annoyance. "Mr. Mitchell, shouldn't you be getting ready?" "I am ready." I stepped into the room and the conversation died. "Actually, Derek, I need to speak with you privately." His groomsmen exchanged glances. "Can it wait until after?" "No, it can't." Something in my tone made Derek motion for his friends to leave. When the door closed behind them, I opened my leather portfolio and pulled out a stack of receipts. "I thought you should see these before you walk down that aisle." Derek glanced at the papers with irritation. "What are these?" "Your wedding bill." His frown deepened as his eyes focused on the first receipt. Sentinel Hotel, $15,000. His face went pale as he flipped through the stack. Catering, flowers, photography, music, Sarah's dress, his tuxedo, the honeymoon. What is this?" His voice came out as a whisper. "Every single expense for today's wedding, paid in cash by me." Derek sank into a chair, the receipts scattered across his lap. But you said you could barely contribute. Sarah said you were struggling financially." "I never said I was struggling. You assumed that because I live modestly and work with my hands." I pulled out my phone and showed him my bank balance. "This is what a lifetime of hard work and careful saving looks like." Derek stared at the screen, his face cycling through confusion, shock, and horror. $847,000. But your apartment, your truck, your clothes. I choose to live simply because I learned what really matters when my wife was dying. Money can't buy health or time with the people you love. But apparently, it can buy respect from people like you. Mr. Mitchell, Last night I overheard your phone call with Sarah. You called me embarrassing. Said I was too poor to contribute to a real wedding. Said your parents would think you married beneath you. Derek's face crumpled with the realization of what he'd done. Oh God, I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to get to know me. You saw work clothes and an old truck and decided I wasn't worth your respect. I gathered the receipts from his lap and put them back in my portfolio. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk down that aisle and marry my daughter because she loves you and deserves to be happy. But you're going to remember this moment for the rest of your life. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that the man you looked down on, the man you called embarrassing, just gave you the wedding of your dreams. And I want you to think about what kind of person that makes you. Derek buried his face in his hands. I'm so sorry, I'm such an idiot. Yes, you are. But you're going to be my son-in-law in an hour, so we need to figure out how to move forward. The wedding ceremony was perfect. Sarah walked down the aisle looking like a princess, her face glowing with happiness. The flowers were stunning, the music was flawless, and the photographer captured every moment. Derek's vows were particularly heartfelt. He spoke about respect, about judging people by their character rather than their circumstances, about being grateful for family in all its forms. His eyes found mine several times during his speech, and I saw genuine remorse there. The reception at the Sentinel Hotel was everything Sarah had dreamed of. The ballroom was transformed into a fairy tale, the food was exceptional, and the string quartet played beautifully during dinner. When it came time for toasts, I stood and walked to the microphone. The room fell silent, and I saw Derek tense in his chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sarah's father, and I have something to say about today's celebration. I looked out at the sea of faces, Derek's wealthy relatives mixed with my modest group of friends and coworkers. When Sarah was little, she used to help me in my workshop. She'd hand me screws and hold boards steady while I measured and cut. One day, she asked me why I was so careful about every measurement, every joint, every detail. I paused, finding Sarah's face in the crowd. I told her that when you build something to last, you don't cut corners. You use the best materials you can afford, you take the time to do it right, and you never compromise on the things that matter. Today's wedding represents 30 years of that philosophy. Every flower, every song, every detail was chosen with care and paid for with love. Not because anyone expected recognition or gratitude, but because Sarah deserves nothing less than perfection on her special day. I raised my glass. To Derek and Sarah, may your marriage be built on the same foundation as this wedding, respect, understanding, and love that doesn't count the cost. The room erupted in applause. I saw Derek wipe tears from his eyes, saw Richard and Patricia Hamilton looking at me with new understanding. After the toast, Derek approached me at my table. Mr. Mitchell, I need to apologize to everyone. To you, to Sarah, to my parents. What I said about you was unforgivable. Derek, you made a mistake. We all make mistakes. The question is what you do with the lesson. I want to pay you back, every penny. I shook my head. This was my gift to Sarah. She's my only child, and her happiness is worth more than money to me. Then let me make it up to you another way. Let me get to know you properly. Let me learn about the man who raised the woman I love. 6 months after the wedding, Derek and I meet for coffee every Sunday morning. He's learned to change his own oil, and I've learned to appreciate craft beer. Sarah says she's never seen two people work harder to become friends. Derek told his parents the truth about the wedding costs. Richard Hamilton offered to reimburse me, but I declined. Instead, I asked him to donate the money to charity in Rebecca's name. The apartment I still live in has become a gathering place for Sunday dinners. Derek brings ingredients and we cook together while Sarah tells stories about their new life. He stopped wearing suits on weekends and learned that respect isn't measured by bank accounts or job titles. Last month, Sarah called with news that made my heart skip. Dad, we're pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather. Derek got on the phone. Mr. Mitchell, Dad, we want to ask you something. Would you consider moving in with us? We're buying a house with a separate apartment, and we want our children to know their grandfather. I looked around my small apartment, at the simple life I'd built after Rebecca died, at the man I'd become through loss and discovery. I'd be honored, I said. The house they bought has a workshop in the garage. Derek installed a sign over the workbench, Mitchell & Son Carpentry. He's learning to build things that last, and I'm teaching him that the best construction projects aren't made of wood and nails. They're made of understanding, forgiveness, and love that doesn't count the cost. Today, 8 months after that devastating phone call, Derek helps me teach woodworking classes at the community center. Sarah volunteers at the charity we established in Rebecca's memory. And I'm building a crib for my first grandchild, taking extra care with every measurement because some things are worth doing perfectly. Derek learned that the man he thought was too poor for his wedding was actually rich in all the ways that mattered. And I learned that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones most capable of change when they understand what they've lost. The wedding photos sit on my mantle now, next to Rebecca's picture. In every shot, Sarah's smile lights up the room. Derek looks like the luckiest man alive, and somewhere in the background, a father's love made everything possible. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To everyone listening, I challenge you to look beyond surface appearances and financial circumstances when judging others. The person you dismiss might be the one who's been supporting you all along. True wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you're willing to give to the people you love. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.